We're stopping streaming, by the way.
Stop and then.
Yeah, no, we need to wait. After we're done the podcast.
Hit stop streaming first.
No, wait like a good minute before you hit the stop streaming. Because what happened last time is the last like 20 seconds got cut off the stream, the podcast.
Yeah.
So just all about a little bit extra time. Any second now, Brad. Brad can tell the story about Mift Gorax being a total dick at the SOO. Or the fact that his ass was hanging out the entire... How I disrupt my opponents, really. All right. Hit it. Hit the...
recording.
And...
Welcome to This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes, the explicit All Warma Hordes news podcast. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday night, and the Death Clock starts now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 6th. That's right. No, the 5th. The 5th. That's right. The 5th installment of This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes. I am your host, Mift Gorax, and I am joined this evening by my co-host,
Semi-Auto Magic.
And on the board over there, making sure that whenever you have a live comment that you want to make or a question, is my buddy, Maelstrom.
I'm here.
Maelstrom will be on the boards answering your questions live. And finally, I would like to...
different spot today.
He's in a different spot. He's
trying to answer your questions.
There, trying to answer your questions when you have questions. And finally, I'd like to introduce our guest this evening, none other than the bearded wonder, Kris Aubin.
Hello, it's great to be here. I'm in the big boy chair today, which is kind of
We've
nice.
been told, apparently, George may look a little goon-like sitting in the big chair.
Hired goons. Goons.
So he's been rejected from the big chair. So you're our first live guest, so...
I'm alive, yes.
And as you've seen,
You've met the minimum requirements.
Our $1 million set...
It's wonderful.
No expense.
The studio is great. I love it.
It's really, soundproofed. The snack bar behind the camera for all
the
of
barista is cute.
The barista is actually quite nice. The makeup girl, incredible. No expense has been spared on this Death Clock Has 60 Minutes.
Apparently, Aggie's house has 5 people watching,
Ooh.
so our viewer numbers are high.
Our viewer numbers are high.
Thank you, Dice Damage.
So those of you that have not tuned in to this Death Clock Has 60 Minutes before, there are 3 ways to interact with us here in the studio. If you're watching live on Twitch right now, you can post a message. Maelstrom will make sure that if you have questions or comments or horrible stories about Mift Gorax at the SOO, he'll make sure that those get out and become public. If you don't have a chance to watch the Twitch stream, you can either listen to us on iTunes or SoundCloud, or you can watch the YouTube videos if you want to see the incredible set that we're talking about. This giant poster that, we spent thousands of dollars on that poster. We're breaking tons of international copyright laws to have that there.
This part's the best.
I know, one dragon.
Can you tell me what that is?
The dragon, it's a dragon wing. I can see it already.
Oh, okay.
All right, so to introduce Kris Aubin, for all of you who don't know who Kris is, Kris, you're a former art director for Privateer Press, and now you work for a company called?
Ninja Division.
So
yes.
You work in the game industry, have been for years, super exciting.
That's about it.
That's about it. Perfect. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to get to right off the top is let's talk about some of the news that's hit this week from Privateer Press and some of the other companies that work in and around the War Machine world. George, what's the first big thing that happened this week?
Well, we did get out of the league. So if you haven't played in the leagues, what happens is every year people actually... play in these leagues and get points, and then your local press gangers report those points back to Privateer Press, and those will often unlock little tidbits of information from unreleased models or different things that are coming up.
Right.
So
we're doing I'm going to say Broken Roads or Shattered Lands. Do you remember the name of the league right now? It's
the latest one, I think, is Shattered Lands.
Shattered Lands, something along
But today we had, or not today, it was, I think, yesterday or the day before, we had the release of an order. Now, orders are kind of weird to get in this. Normally, we either get pictures of models or spells, animi, that type of thing.
Right, last week we got... Boiling Blood, I want to say, was the name of the spell that we got.
You had Thyron's Feet at one point as well, I believe.
Yeah.
That's right.
But since I've been doing this is the first time I think we've actually seen an order. And this order we got is called Slip Away. Affected models make a full advance during their normal movement. This activation can advance through other models if they have enough movement to move completely past them and cannot be targeted by free strikes. Now, Aubin, you had a theory as to which model this was going to be on.
Right. Someone actually suggested this to me, that it was going to be for the troll pygmy bushwhackers.
That would give a lot of interesting interactions because the bushwhackers, as the name implies, have bushwhack. So they will be able to make their attacks and then with the slip away order be able to move past that unit or whoever they're engaging, or even, you know, fade away, fade back maybe behind another line of models. If you had something like Fen Blades right behind the bushwhackers, the bushwhackers could make their shots or make their melee attacks, depending on what's happening, and then fade back behind, say, warders or something like that, that would stop them from taking a lot of attacks.
Is the move through only friendly models, or is it any model?
It just says through other models.
That's pretty
so
great.
you could either fade through their lines, so you're threatening something else next turn, or fade back behind your own wall of meat, so that the bushwhackers don't die, because that's traditionally been one of the bushwhackers' big problems.
Right.
Is they're really squishy.
Yeah,
they're little piggies.
And they get stuck behind things, and then
And
you're
then
trying
they're
to cover
dead.
them to get out, and then you finally let them out, and they all die.
So this order would either allow them to get up front, make their move through and shoot, or allow them to shoot and then fade back.
So Kris, to throw this in your direction, if you could have this order on any unit or UA that goes in one of your armies, which one would you want that in?
Oh man, that's a tough question right off the bat.
Bright Blades. Oh, that do
All
dirty.
right, sorry, Sammy, you got your theory, Bright Blade.
Well, I'm not actually playing Legion right now.
Yeah.
But the immediate usefulness on the Bright Blades, or even something, oh goodness, on Raptors.
I play Signar,
Being
so I
able
want
to
it on a Merc
shoot,
unit.
Right.
fall back 9 inches, light cav another 5. Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Having the bushwhack order really makes it a much stronger order, right? Because you can take your shot or make your melee attack and then like get out of the way, right, for anything that's come in. But even just having no free strikes on a unit is like fantastic.
yeah, exactly. It's great.
All right, guys, so the next thing we've seen leaked this week from Privateer Press, well, it's not really leaked. We finally see full images of Ace, and we know from seeing in the book, from the glimpses that we've seen in the book, what Ace's powers are. So let's talk a bit about Ace, because, I mean, Ace is forthcoming.
Yeah, he's been released in the latest book.
Yeah.
And you're the Signar player here.
Right.
Like, I've played Signar
So
in
you
the
can
past.
ask me the questions.
But, so, what's the big deal about Ace?
Well, you guys may or may not know that I have a deep, ingrained love of Ekane. And that, for Ekane to get a character jack is pretty awesome. And we've also got all the fluff that came with it. There was a whole short story, I want to say, that was all about him getting Ace, and how awesome it was for him to be able to do his infiltration stuff. Now here's the problem, and you know, listening to the immediate naysayers in the Signar community, they're like, well, he's great, but only with one Warcaster. And
so
they kind of do have, well, yeah, and he's like, oh, he's great with one Warcaster who happens to be one of our, you know, top 3, I want to say.
Yeah.
Warcaster, if you're an assassination guy like me, or that's how you plan on winning, you kind of want Kane in there, and you just kind of got a whole lot better. You basically have a hunter with True Sight, which is pretty kick-ass, and then you add on his affinity, which the problem is that the 3 best powers that Ace gets, he only gets through his affinity with Kane.
Can you tell me what those are?
That's Shadowfire. So does the model? So you get to choose Shadowfire, Thunderbolt, or Trick Shot. So you either Shadowfire, the model hit does not block line of sight this turn, which is pretty amazing for Kane. Because that means, add that into his feat turn. So if you got that one thing that somebody put in your way, like say Colossal, you just hit that once. And then
Kane's good to go.
Yeah, Kane doesn't have to do any shenanigans. He just gets to shoot the hell out of you. Thunderbolt is always useful if you've now give Kane another way to play scenario a bit better. I think by giving him
that's
axe.
a slamming.
Yeah, that's the one that moves die 3, which means that he's got another scenario option, which is exciting to me because that's, I think, Kane's biggest hindrance is in scenario play. You kind of have to use, if you're playing pure scenario, then you have to use Kane's feat to clear a zone, which isn't as great.
Yeah.
Because you kind of want to hold on to that for that sweet, sweet assassination. And trick shot, of course, is great because then you can do a POW 10 magic dam. You just hit something, and then the thing behind it takes that shot. So if you just have something that's creating you a problem, like, say, a Journeyman Warcaster or something that you just need to take out that's in solid cover.
Or the shepherds that are always close by.
Shepherds is a perfect time. It's not as great as it could be because it's not like it's one shot.
Is it within 2 inches or how's it work?
It's 4 inches. So you get to shoot something and then you get to choose something else within 4 inches that you get to kill.
That's pretty
powerful.
POW
10. It's not crazy powerful, but it's good enough. If you got to focus on support killer. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So yeah, with your shepherds, for example, or your little dudes, the jacks that pop out, new dudes, is I can sit there and just throw a little bit of extra fire support into that. So it's cool. And infiltrate is great. That's the other power that's the power that everybody gets is infiltrate, which is once per game during activation, this model can use infiltrate. This model gets stealth. While it's controlling Warcaster is base to base with this model, that Warcaster also gains infiltrate. It's another great way to get Kane down the board. If you're fighting against an army that doesn't have stealth, that doesn't have a good stealth anti-stealth solution, it's another great way to.
So it's while he's base to base with the jack.
While he's base to base, so you can use, you can use it for quote unquote cover as well as stealth.
So the Def 17 caster is now stealth.
Yeah, exactly, because that's what we needed.
That sounds pretty great for Kane.
Yeah, Ace is awesome for Kane. The problem is he's not a solution. He's a 7-point light. He's not a great solution for really anybody else. But we've got 2 versions of Kane, so it's 2 casters that have some new shenanigans. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's good. I think it's fun, especially for a guy like me who loves his Kane.
And the model's pretty nice as well.
Oh, the model is sweet. The model is sweet. It's a cool model. I'm looking kind of forward to painting that stealthy black looking.
I think with the model too, like we're seeing all these new resin character jacks coming out, and they are kind of like a precursor for these plastic kits. Now, not to say that's 100% going to happen. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure there's going to be like a plastic Grenadier and a plastic Hunter down the line, and a plastic Minuteman.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's exactly what we're seeing is they're building up towards that.
Yeah.
That plastic kit.
Which is going to be great.
All right, so it is actually well past the time that we're supposed to talk about all of those new things. Let's quickly talk about you said there was a leak from Muse on Minis this week.
Yeah, I saw today that on the Muse forums they had posted or leaked a couple of new plastic acrylic color tokens that they're going to be putting out. So I believe there was a circle token with a couple Warpwolf heads on it, maybe, and then there was a plastic color Breath Stealer for Legion, and it looked very Legion with a big maw and like tentacles, and it was purple and full of color and looked really good.
And we love Muse on Minis tokens, but what's the excitement about a resin token?
Well, the current tokens are beautiful. The wooden tokens with the laser etched design.
They smell great.
Oh, they smell awesome when you take them out for the first time.
Dude, that smell never goes away.
Yeah. The nice thing though about the acrylic ones with the color printing is they're much easier to tell what they are across the table.
Right.
The problem with the wood on wood token on the other side of the table is it's hard to tell.
Or when you reach into your little plastic kit trying to find the right token, and it's just a sea of wood tokens, right? So
wood round. Yeah.
You'll probably it'll be easier to read the token when you see it right off the bat.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to our second segment. As soon as Maelstrom picks the button, it's time for Rip from the Forums. Oh no! It's such a sweet thing.
Can you do it again?
I need to do it again.
Do it again.
I like it.
You guys can actually hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So today, in Rip from the Forums, we're going to talk about. There was a post on the forums in the last couple of days. It's kind of kept up at the top, where somebody was talking about wanting to run a demo. He wanted to run a demo. What do you need to know to run a demo? How do you run a demo? Where can you find somebody to run a demo for you? And I think the best solution that I was going to suggest is learn how to run demos yourself. So instead of talking about the controversy of how to run a demo, because there really isn't any, but let's get some tips from you guys on how to run a demo, what you guys do when you're running a demo for a brand new player. And we're not talking about like demoing another faction. Chris, you ran a demo just on Monday at our pub league night.
I did.
What's the trick to running a good demo?
So running a good demo, I think you have to step away from the game as a War Machine player and look at it as, I'm not playing a game of War Machine against this new person, the kid will say, right? I'm not going to try to win this game, right? You're here to show somebody the game, show them the rules, show them how things work. And the key is that they want to have fun. You have to be like, this is a fun game. So usually I try to keep it fairly short, but as you're explaining everything, it's probably going to take about half an hour, 45 minutes. You definitely cannot win. You almost always want to set it up so your opponent wins, no matter what. No matter how much you have to help them, no matter what, like they make the wrong choices if you give them the choice. They have to win because they have to be like walking away from it being like, oh, that was fun. I had the tools to win the game, right? I would probably steer clear of any power attacks unless it's very situational. Feats are always great, especially with the Striker and Krios battle boxes, because whenever I'd play that, I'd run the men off. And so I'd like walk up, a feat, knock down a couple dudes, maybe even get a charge in and kill one of his lights. And be like, look at the power of this feat. I knocked your guy down, I can kill him, it's awesome. And I have to be like, now you gotta figure out, you're gonna feat, right? And so I get him to engage with his models and his warjacks, and if he pops his feat, I'm probably not gonna do any damage. And then he can be like, oh wow, that was really great. And then he can probably finish off my caster or warjacks at that point. So it's really about making sure they have fun.
Yeah, I think the other side of that is making sure they have fun. The other thing, yes, you want to put them in a place to win, but it's usually, I find, I give them every opportunity to win. I try not to beat them. But the biggest thing is give them every suggestion that you can as well. So if they make a terrible, terrible move, let them take it back. Point out some strategies, like, that was really cool, but maybe, like, you want to give them the tools, I think is what you're saying. And instead of just saying, oh, yes, I put my caster in the middle of, oh, no, I forgot to do anything with all of this focus. I'm just going to give it away. And then let them kill you, because they're not going to be satisfied if you do that.
But it's also their first game. Like, even if they come from a different game and understand, like, the idea of mechanics and, like, how guys move around and maybe how order of activation would be with, like, magic.
Right.
I think you still have to make it so that they're going to win.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because it's still a brand new concept for them most of the time.
I'm not saying don't let them win. Right. I'm saying try not to make it a stupidly obvious win.
True.
Give them the tools to help them win.
You want to like moonwalk your caster up into their heavy.
Don't just be like, I'm going to put this here so that you can beat me. My very first game was with you, George, and about turn 1, I managed to figure out a couple things, and then I had to say to you, like, dude, don't pull any punches.
Yeah.
Which was, because I knew you were pulling punches.
That is a hard thing. So one of the things that you very quickly learn as a press ganger is you have to learn how to lose games without looking like you're losing games. Now, you were very good at spotting that.
Yeah.
Most people aren't, because they don't have a... not a technical mind, but a strategic mind for that type of thing.
Right.
When I am giving a demo game, when I'm giving my first demo game, strategy is not really something that usually enters into it.
Right.
I tend to do what I call a front of card demo, where literally there's no feats, there's no spells, nothing like that. You play with just what is on the front of the cards. And that really simplifies for people movement, attacking, and stuff like that. If I can, I like to follow that up with a full card demo where you're doing spells, you're doing feats, you're doing special attacks on the back of cards, stuff like that. The Quake Hammer. The first game, nobody needs to know that you can charge and then do a Quake attack. Nobody's going to understand that. They're going to understand, I walk up, what do I need to hit? What's the power of this weapon versus your armor?
Now, do you include focus spending in that first?
Yes, I always include focus spending because that is so central. That is how...
Or Fury Mechanic.
Yeah, or the Fury Mechanic. That is how you change the dice curve. And the dice curve is so important to a balanced game. I find that it's really important that you let people know that that dice curve is there and how they can affect the dice.
That's right.
The other thing that I find really, really important, especially in a... situation where these are very fresh people and they're not sure whether they actually want to play the game or not. This often happens in a convention setting. If I'm giving if I'm giving a demo, I try and build a narrative around what they're doing. And often when I'm giving a demo, I'm giving a demo to two people. So it's a fresh person on either side. And you have to construct a narrative about these giant lumbering robots and this magic user who's channeling the power of this giant armored suit that they're wearing that's chugging away, belching steam and coal smoke in the air, and he's pulling the power out of that power field and injecting it into the robots so that they can do these faster, quicker things.
Sounds sensual.
And when people
make it sexy.
Yeah. When people hear that, they imagine this warjack, running across the field, smashing into things, and I think once they can imagine that in their head, they have a much better idea. It's like, so this thing's running across the battlefield. Can I do like extra damage when I run across the battlefield? That's a great point where you can say, hey, here is charging. Right?
That narrative also inspires them to get interested in the model they're playing, to start dreaming up their own color schemes, all that type of stuff. Maelstrom, we got a question from the audience.
Yeah, well, we're just kind of discussing throws and the importance of learning things like that, especially when you get somebody new who comes in, and the fact that you can walk up, take an enemy model, and throw them across the table. It's something unique to War Machine, and it's cool to see.
And I think we agree with you here. I think that for doing your first demo game, I think we've touched on that power attacks are cool, but I think you save that for game 2, game 3, just to keep it simple for your audience, because remember, we don't find it overwhelming because we're war gamers and we've gotten into this, and the rules become our thing. But I think other people can find, like, especially if you're trying to get the point of doing demo games, and my only point I was going to make in this whole conversation was the point of doing demo games is to get a new player.
Yeah.
And that's how we grow a meta. I mean, we talked about this on the last episode. We went into detail on how to grow your meta. But part of growing your meta is bringing in new players. So know your audience, get them interested, find ways to make it sexy. Because the reality is if a guy has a couple of good games, especially if they're playing their buddy or they're playing you and they win, and they beat the press ganger and they feel pretty good about themselves, that's going to encourage them to go buy their first box set and start getting invested. And you can't get new players in your meta unless you get those people buying those box sets. And it sounds super salesy, right? But the reality is that if you want to grow your meta and have people to play against because you love the game,
that's what you're doing.
But also the battle boxes are designed to be a great entry point from like a product point of view, right? Comes with the rules.
Absolutely.
One thing I will speak to with the power attacks is sometimes things like throws and charges and slams come up organically, and I will include those rules when they come up organically.
Right.
I've had games where at the beginning of the game we start where we're playing the front of the card, and by the end of the card both sides have feeded, they've done slams and throws and all that kind of stuff. It's one of those things that you really have to feel out. Some people never want to have that kind of complexity, and other people want that complexity day one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like they want it right away.
And that's part of knowing your audience, though. I mean, that's my point is, a good press ganger or a good demo game player reads his audience early off the bat and goes, okay, this guy has played Warhammer for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Is totally ready to invest and change to skip sessions because something weird has happened in the Warhammer system that's made people leave it. I don't know. I mean, I've just heard some rumors. But then, then you might play a very different demo game.
Yes. Oh, yes. Knowing your audience is very important.
All right, guys, we're going to have to drop this topic because it's time to talk about something in the rules. So that means it's time for a little... Focus! It's time for focus. All right, guys, so today what we're going to talk about in focus is throwing 101. We're going to working through the weird interactions. So it's funny that you guys brought this up on the live chat, that you were like, oh, you need to understand throwing. Here's the funny thing about power attacks. We're going to talk about all the power attacks eventually, but this week we're just going to talk about one because it's particularly complicated. I mean, super easy. Throwing.
Oh, shut up.
That's why I never do it.
Yeah, nobody does it. There's a reason why nobody does it.
I'll tell you right now.
How many of us understand
we
it?
played a game of an ancient version of War Machine called Grind. Now, we're not talking about the boxed set that you can now buy from PP, but back in No Quarter number 10, so 50-some issues ago,
I think I have it.
They produced rules for a Warjack game, arena game, called Grind. And one of the things about grind is that you move the grind ball almost exclusively by power attacks. And we learned more about power attacks in like 2 hours.
Suddenly you and I started using power attacks. We went from never, ever using power attacks to being like, oh shit, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, we can do all these extra things.
Wait a second, Minuteman can't just throw the ball all... Oh, damn it.
Yeah, we didn't find that.
Minuteman was like our MVP until we realized that
it's a larger model.
And one of the things about throwing, which we'll get into in just a sec, is that you can only throw things of your own base size and smaller.
All right, to start right off the top, Semi, tell us the basic rules for throws. Give us the overview.
Well, you know, as I always do, we dip into the fluff first.
Okay.
So
what's the fluff?
So we have these giant robots, and one of the great things about having a giant humanoid robot is great big metallic hands that they can pick stuff up with. Normally, we have these guys holding weapons, but sometimes you get one with this little hand symbol next to their weapon that says open fist. And open fist gives you a bunch of new things, and one of them is the ability to throw.
Unlocks the powers.
I did make that icon, actually.
Solid!
Trying to get a reference for an open fist on the internet is not work safe.
Yeah, I can imagine that wasn't good.
It was originally going to be a man putting on a rubber glove. Like that.
Yeah. Uh-oh. So, you want to throw.
Yeah, I want to do a throw. Tell me how does a throw work? I'm like, sweet!
So,
I'm going to get this damn freaking bastard out of my way.
So, first of all, you're going to need a warjack.
Damn it!
Yeah, I know.
When is a throw a good... Sorry, I might be getting ahead of myself, but when is a throw a good thing to do as opposed to doing attacks?
Throws are great for a bunch of things. First of all, they're great for getting stuff out of the way. Like, so I have somebody in a zone, I want to score it. I can chuck him out of the zone and then score that zone, maybe winning me the game. Second thing is I want somebody to be knocked down, but not right in front of me. So I'm going to put a lot of range shots into him. I can pick him up, chuck him. He's knocked down. Everybody else gets to shoot at him. The third thing, and what is probably the most amazing about throws, during a two-handed throw, you get to target another model with your throw.
Right.
That model is not considered to be the recipient of an attack. So, say maybe Saren has feated. You can still throw things at their army.
That's right.
Because it is an attack. Now, say they have some kind of great defense against ranged attacks. Well, throws are melee attacks. So now you have something hurtling through the air at someone that you can't hit, and is got a defensive tech up against it against ranged shots. Well, this robot flying through the air just kind of ignores. It doesn't matter how much bullet dodgy you are when a warjack comes crashing down on your head.
Your deceleration has no effect.
Has no effect on a couple hundred tons of warjack.
This actually brings up something for Cephalix, because their mat is always decent, and a lot of the their big monstrosities don't have a high... Oh, their rat's a point lower.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad... So let's start from the beginning, because I think we need to clarify some stuff. If you're a new player, and I'm walking up to you, I'm like, hey, dude, I hear there's this thing called throw. What's that all about?
So you need one of three models: a warjack, a war beast, or being Cephalix, a monstrosity, which are neither warjacks or war beasts.
Or Karchev?
They're not Karchevs either. So you need one of those things. It also needs two other things. It needs to have a focus on it or room to add a fury to it.
Okay.
It also needs to have at least one open hand on its card.
The fist icon.
Yeah.
So a one open hand would be a one-hand throw, and then two
open hands can be a two-handed throw.
That's right.
So, so now that you've got those things, so you come up to the thing you want to throw. First thing you got to check, is it smaller than me or the same size? So if I'm a light, I can't go throwing a heavy. If I'm a heavy, I can throw heavy and downwards, and if I'm a colossal, everything is fair game.
That's right.
You can't throw colossals because they can never be moved, pushed, or anything during their activation. Theoretically, you could throw it, but it would throw for 0 and take no damage because it doesn't get thrown.
It would be knocked down.
I wish a colossal could throw a colossal.
That I think they should be able to, but that's just me. Yeah. So now that you've got all the things on it that you need, you've got an open fist, you've got a target that's your same size or smaller, and you've got, let's say, one open hand. So what we're going to do is now we're going to throw. So the first thing we need to do is see if you can actually pick up the other guy, because most of the time he doesn't want to be thrown. So you make a strength.
Well, first
check.
you spend a focus.
Well, yes, you always whenever
Or
you're doing a power
build a fury,
attack,
yeah.
it's going to eat up all your initials, and this is the same with all power attacks. It's going to eat up all your initials, and you're going to either spend one focus or add one fury. You're going to force your war beast.
Super important. That means it has to be your initial as well.
That's correct. Well,
you can't do it after
it
you've
is
done
your
your initial.
action.
Right.
It eats up all your
But
initials.
that's important for a new player to understand that you can't do it after you've
Yeah,
done a
you
bunch
can't
of
hit
initials and then be
something
like,
and then
now I'm
throw.
going to throw you. It's got to be the first thing that you do.
Yeah, exactly. So we now we have to do a strength off. So we each roll a d6. We add the d6 to our strengths. If his is higher, then he doesn't get thrown. If you beat his, then you get to chuck him.
Okay.
So now you're going to throw. You pick a direction. Yep.
Don't you have to make an initial melee attack to hit?
Well,
with
sorry.
the throw?
Yes, you do have to hit them first and then make the
Hit,
strength.
strength check. Now, at that point, you should have already chosen whether it was a one-handed or a two-handed throw. And
If you have the option, you have to make that choice.
and the
there.
rule interaction works differently depending on.
Yeah,
whether
so
a
we're
one-handed-
starting with a one-handed throw.
One-handed throw
with the
only.
assumption that
Gotcha.
it's a one-handed
All right,
throw.
fair
you
enough.
pick a direction, and then you measure out half of your strength as distance,
Okay.
and then that is your initial impact point.
Okay.
Now, the problem is, of course, you're not actually throwing at anything, so he could sort of go anywhere in that general direction. So then you do a deviation from that location.
Fair.
The deviation can only be like normal deviations up to half.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a D3, not a D6.
Okay.
So he can't go 6 inches. He can go a maximum of 3, and only if he is thrown more than thrown at least 6 inches.
So it's going to end up generally where you.
Yeah,
placed it.
it's not going to be too far.
Yeah. It's like me playing basketball.
Yeah, the Warjack sails through the air with the greatest of ease, impacts on the ground.
Right.
You do he's knocked down if he is able to be knocked down, and then he does a strength damage against it.
Okay.
That's collateral damage, right?
All right. We have
That's
a.
the primary damage. It can be boosted.
Going to interrupt you for 1 second because we got something from the audience. What do you got, Neil?
Brad wants to know: can you throw at a target or only a direction?
Throwing at a target is what you do when you have 2 hands.
Okay.
So let's say that you've thrown your guy with 1 hand, and you've not hit anybody. Like it's just the jack has fallen on the ground and it takes some damage. You can boost that damage because it is not collateral damage, and then you're done. So let's take the example of a 2-handed throw.
Okay.
So 2-handed throws can be targeted. They do not have to be.
Okay.
So you can either pick a direction or pick a model that you think you can hit with it. So you've already done all the same normal stuff. You've done your initial hit attack. You've done your strength check. So we're assuming you can now throw this guy. So you aim at another model, and now you make a melee attack against that other model. That model is not considered to be the recipient of an attack. It's just he happens to be where you want to put that jack. Again, the jack or the thing that you're throwing flies through the air with the greatest of ease. If your melee attack was successful, it hits on top of the model, and then you do this thing called the movement of least disturbance, which is a big thing that I will try not to get into right now.
We may have to do an entire
That's
thing
on least
just
disturbance.
least
Yeah.
disturbance.
But basically, it pushes the other one out of the way, and both things are knocked down.
Right.
The thing that you threw, you can boost the damage on. The thing that you did not throw, the collateral damage, cannot be boosted.
Now, is there ever a situation the collateral damage, say the person being hit is smaller than the model being thrown at the target? Is there extra damage that incurs?
No, there isn't any extra damage that I could find. I had, I had it in my head.
Because I am like least knowledgeable on power attacks. I always have to look them
I
up.
had it in my head for some reason that there was circumstances in which collateral damage was boosted, but I couldn't find any.
Okay.
Which I think brings up the point that I think the biggest thing with power attacks is, and if you watch some of our old episodes of Miffed and Semi Fuck Shit Up, we fucked a lot of shit up, but part of what we did was we spent entire games where we were like, this week, you cannot win the game unless you have some power attacks in there. Like, force yourself to use power attacks. Play games, especially battle box games, is a great time.
Yeah.
Low point games where you like set up a scenario for yourself. Make up a scenario where you're like, I can't win unless I've done at
Unless
least
you've
one
thrown
power
one jack
thrown
into
one
this
jack.
hole or whatever.
Because the reality is, until you play with that interaction, until you actually force yourself to deal with what that does.
That's right.
You won't learn it. You'll never use it. Now that you and I have done throws, you and I both won big games using throws, like where it's like, oh shit, the only way I can win this game is to throw
something out.
That's right.
One of those big things, because it's not considered to be an attack on the model you're throwing at, it gets around so many things. It gets around stealth. It gets around
wall or a storm wall.
Storm wall. It gets around because it's a melee attack that is not considered to target that model. There's a whole lot of things that suddenly are like,
that's right.
Oh wait, this applies to ranged attacks, and since that thing's not the target. Now, you won't be able to follow that up with a lot of shooting, but maybe the thing you need to do is clear a lane.
Yeah, remember that if you do that with, say, if you do that with, say, your jack that was already pretty much rendered ineffective at that point, runs in, clears the lane, does a bunch of collateral damage, and then now allows, say, your 2 wreckers to finally get in there and do some real damage, then it can be super, super valuable. From a strategic standpoint, throws are ridiculous.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do want to mention is the LeConte fastball. So, say you want LeConte really far up the board. He could be picked up by a prime axiom, thrown because he has 4 legs, so he is steady, and then he could then activate. Now, here's the big thing about that. On a model's activation, on the turn it has been thrown, if it cannot be knocked down, it must give up either its action or its movement.
That's really fascinating.
So you can't, for example, throw, run, or charge, or make attacks.
Right.
Or, well, you could make attacks if you happen to land right in front of the thing.
Didn't that interaction come up because of some sort of dwarven
fastball? The Gordon fastball.
The Gordon fastball.
Because you put the strength of iron, I think it was, on the Gordston Driller, which has an open fist. Then you pick up Gordon, who's steady, and you chuck him downrange, and then he would activate, he would move up, and then he would feet and drive the other entire army 8 inches towards the back of the board, which meant that on turn 1, you were pushed back to the back edge of the board or something.
Off the board.
Yeah. Well, you can't actually get off the board. But we will mention that on the turn a model is thrown, if it's on the same turn, then it still has to lose one of the 2, even if it's steady.
That's right.
Man, so, I mean, here's the funny thing. This is our 5th one of these segments we've done. Yeah. And every time we come around to the end of this segment, I'm like, shit.
we didn't get enough time.
Even get
we scratched the surface.
Yeah. And I just gave us an extra 5 minutes today to
wow.
this. So here's the thing. As with every one of the old focus segments, we keep trying, and the thing is, we're minimizing it. We're getting down to let's talk about a single interaction in the game.
It's still not enough.
And it's still not enough.
That's a whole hour, though.
We could do a whole hour on throws, and unfortunately, I don't allow us time for that. Part of the fun of this is that we, of course, want you guys, the audience, to come back, give us your comments, your questions. If you go to our Facebook page and have questions about throws, that's a perfect place to put it in there. We've got PG Semi-Automagic with you got a hotline to your own PG / some judging.
Yeah.
And we'll try to answer the question.
And if you happen to be on Reddit, we'll pimp Monday Ask a PG. So if you go to r/War Machine, Aggie usually puts up a thread on Monday,
which is a great thread. Upvote the hell out of that thread. Because I mean, here's the problem that we're noticing on Reddit, and
I lurk on that thread as well. So if you have any questions, ask it there.
We're podcasters, and along with several other podcasters, and we're finding that the information on Reddit is becoming less and less informative. We're seeing a lot of threads being upvoted that aren't helpful to the War Machine community and just make us kind of look like jerks. So we want, let's try to get our audience to support those threads.
Yeah, let's get lots of positivity.
I don't need you guys to pimp out our podcast. What I need you to do is every time something's posted on Reddit.
He's lying. Pimp our podcast all the time.
Sure, but the point really is I want to get our crew on Reddit to upvote the things
that are good,
right. that help the community grow, learn, that type of thing. That's what we want. That fosters a positive community where we all get to learn something as opposed to just seeing what somebody's cool paints look like, which. I'm just as guilty of throwing cool paints down as everybody else. All right, moving right along. We are coming deep into the show at this point. We still have not really grilled Kris Aubin yet. So it's time to bring out some questions from Mr. Aubin. It's time for our guest interview. welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. I'm
Thank
here.
you for partaking in the beginning of the show. We originally designed this so that you would get to come in like halfway through.
That's fine.
We thought it would be easier for guests.
But then all of a sudden the guests, it seems like the most fun is kind of the beginning of the show when we banter about crap, and usually
The second half is quite boring with the guests. Yeah.
So far,
I've heard it.
every one of our guests has more knowledge than we do.
Oh
on
yeah,
all of
way
our
more
topics.
knowledge.
So
I don't know about that.
first things first, Kris, I want you to introduce yourself and tell us how you got into miniature wargaming.
Hi, I'm Kris Aubin. I kind of cut you short on this earlier, but I guess I am a professional industry kind of person. I've been working for game companies for the last 12 years. I started in 2005 for Games Workshop. I started in Toronto and worked for the head office in Oakville. I was there for about 4 years, and then I had the awesome opportunity to go work for Privateer Press as their art director and studio manager. So I worked there for 4 years, and I ran the graphic design studio. I was the art director, so I worked with the head of sculpting and Matt Wilson and Jason Souls, and developed a lot of the artwork. So I worked with Andrea Uderzo, who was like the core artist behind most of War Machine since 2007, 2008. And that was awesome. And since then, I had moved back home to Eastern Ontario to be closer to my girlfriend, who put up with 3 years of long distance. And I was really lucky enough
Very admirable.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to start working for Soda Pop Miniatures, which turned into Ninja Division. And so I've been working for them for the last 4 years. And since then, we put out Super Dungeon Explorer, an awesome little chibi board game dungeon crawl, and recently Ninja All Stars, which is a Team Ninja Battle-thon palooza of a ninja awesomeness.
Is it still? Can you? It's finished funding now.
Yes,
so
we did
you
a
can't get in
Kickstarter.
on the super awesome Kickstarter that everybody here got in.
I
on.
believe if you go to the website, you might be able to
You might be able
still
to, like,
purchase
slide
it.
in.
You
So,
might check
but
that
that
out.
Kickstarter, like you guys got funded in, I'm gonna say 3 days. You guys were.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super fully funded. And Super Dungeon Explorer, we played it, we loved
Yeah.
it. It's actually Zach, who works with Ninja Division as well. He
That's right.
got super excited to work with Ninja Division
He's our
because
new
he loves Super
Motion
Dungeon.
graphics video guy.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
And he loves Super Dungeon Explorer. So, I mean,
Yeah.
like, he doesn't
Yeah.
want to, he's like, do we have to play War Machine this week at Puzzle? Super Dungeon Explorer? And I'm like, yeah, you can. The rest of us might be playing War Machine.
Yeah. But how I got into miniature gaming, when I was a kid, I was an only child, so like I was always into art and toys and then computers and video games. And then in grade 6, the magical hour, there was a kid in my class with a White Dwarf magazine. And I was like, what is this awesome art? And he's like, oh, this is a game that involves toy soldiers that you paint and rules, and you play a game with it. And there's all this awesome story behind it.
And there's blood and gore.
And literally my head exploded, and I was like, what? And since then, ever since grade 6, I've been into hobby gaming.
Sweet. And you're also do a lot of the hobby side of it. So I mean,
I do.
Your paints are amazing.
Thank
which
you.
is pretty awesome. So it's always cool to play a game against Kris because he'll show up with some sweet painted Menoth.
I've been trying.
So Sammy, you got a question for Kris?
So apparently
Wake
I
up,
do.
Sammy.
Let me check my notes.
I didn't memorize them.
And if you got before we start, before we get far off into Semi's question, if you have a question for Kris, please throw it up in the post. Maelstrom will have
I
the
have a
next.
question
He has the
for
next
Kris.
slot. So.
Apparently, my question is, what faction are you playing right now and why?
Currently, there's
to
no
help him, and
there's
this
no
is what he does.
there's no heart in that question whatsoever.
I know.
Currently, I've recently switched to playing the Protectorate of Menoth. For a long time, I was playing Retribution, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth on the game and kind of got into tournament scene. And then Kalissa's Force Wall tier came out, and I'm like, wow, this is what playing Legion would be like, having focus wherever you want. So I started playing Legion last year, and I played for about 9 months, and that was great and easy, and it was so much fun. But I had Protectorate sitting on the back burner because I wanted to play one of the core 4 War Machine factions. And I decided on Menoth because I was like, coming from Legion, I didn't really use the Colossal very much, but I really wanted, the Gargantuan, but I wanted the Colossal for one of the core 4, and I was like, you know what, the Judicator is where my heart sits, and that guy is amazing. And everything revolves around the Judicator right now, and soon to be the Revelator, which I'm very excited for. So I'm playing Menoth.
Maelstrom from the audience.
Yeah, Freg Palm wants to know what you think of Durst.
Durst. I think Durst is really cool because I always come from a visual standpoint first, right? So I'm like, if something looks cool, I put it on the table.
Hell yeah.
I've mostly lost all my games with Durst, to be honest. Yeah.
Fucking annihilated.
except for these two guys, I've managed to pull out wins. Mullet Karn can still kill Durst. Who knew? So Durst is fun. I was playing Abbey quite a bit, who's really dynamic and quick, and you need to get in the right spot, and then all hell breaks loose. Durst, I find, he's like that slow potato floating downstream. He just moves up slow, doesn't risk much, gets stuff done.
I like to think it was a slow piece of shit.
Slow.
just is floating.
That is one fat piece
Son
of
of
shit.
a bitch.
But he's really cool.
Don't throw a nutritionist against him. That's God, or maybe just Menoth in general.
Yeah.
It just burned everything. All right, so the next question for you is, tell us what you can about working with Privateer Press and how you got there.
Well, how I got to Privateer Press is I was working for a workshop in Toronto. And I was kind of mid-20s, and I was at the time of my life where I wanted a little bit of adventure, and I wasn't really enjoying Toronto all that much. And I was like,
the blow and hookers weren't doing it for you.
Yeah, I wish I could even partake. It was more like sitting in my basement painting models for 2 years, which, you think would be great, but when you're hitting your 20s and you want to live life a little bit. So my friend was like, hey, there's this job posting. My friend Josh Garrett, who's probably watching or knows of this. Everyone knows Josh. Josh was like, there's a posting at Privateer Press for an art director. You should apply. And I was like, that's stupid. It's in the States. Like, I'll never get in because I would need a visa and all that. But I was like, you know what? Why the hell not? Like, fortune favors the bull. So I applied, and then I was out visiting friends, and I was at a bar drinking, and Matt Wilson called me up on my cell phone and was like, hey, you want to have an interview right now? And I was like, no time like the present. I'm in a bar, and he's like, it's okay, I'm going to one quite soon. So we had our interview, and he was like, when can you come down? And I was like, wow, I guess I'm moving to Seattle. So I got my work permit and found a place to live, and I moved down. And Seattle was great. So working for Privateer Press was awesome. Like, you have this really great team of people that all love what they do, and they all love each other. And there's so much camaraderie, which is great. It's still like any other job where you come in, and you're tired, and you have to have your coffee, but you have a lot of stuff to do. And some days you have good days, sometimes you have bad days, and it's all about getting stuff done. But even now, if you are friends with on Facebook with any of the Privateer people, or you see their tweets or their posts, they're always talking about how awesome it is, and they always have a smile on their face. And it's a good place to work, and I really enjoyed it, and it was a really good time in my life.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of the hobbying.
I try.
And some of us are envious of your painting skills. So what would be your top tips for sort of like the painting and hobbying side?
Painting and hobbying. Well, to do it. So if you look at I think it's like any art project. If you look at it, you're like, man, where do I start? Where do I jump in? Right? You can't be afraid to do it. Right? You can't be afraid to fail. Like, if you want your first army to be like award-winning Golden Demon, it's probably not going to happen. But don't want to stop you from getting in, right? And look online for tips on like how to paint. Like, learning how to dry brush is the first step for any like novice painter. Learning how to use inks. So there are all these little steps, and like I was taught that you'll learn something and you'll be like, whoa, that's great, and then you will paint like on a plateau for like 6 months, and then something will click in your head, and you'll learn some new technique, and you'll shoot up, right? So it's just this it's like any kind of like skill. It just takes time and patience to perfect, and make sure you like doing it, right?
10,000 hours, baby.
10,000 hours, like wax on, wax off.
Yeah. Maelstrom, we got a question from the audience.
Frag wants to know if we're working for Privateer Press and working with wargaming all the time, did it spoil the hobby at all?
So that's a really good question I was actually at Privateer Press. Like, we were working so hard that I I never quite got into playing War Machine Hordes while I was there. Like, coming from Workshop, I was like, and as a kid, I played 40K so much. So coming from 40K and jumping like head first into War Machine when I started there, I was kind of like, I don't get this game. It took me a while to really like get into it and like learn how to play. But you know, going home at 5 o'clock, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go work on a Warhammer army, or like, oh, let's go to my RPG group. So after like 8 hours of working on the same thing, you kind of want to like change it up a little bit. And there's plenty of different games out there to do that. So it wasn't actually until I left Privateer that I kind of decided I wanted to get into the more competitive like gaming and like playing at stores and playing in tournaments. So
it almost sounds like if you're gonna get into the industry, it might not be a bad idea to get into the industry in something that you don't play all the time.
Yeah.
Like something related that you like, but you might want to save that special little nugget of awesome for yourself.
Well, there's always like, because you're surrounded by gamers, right? Like you could be the diehard War Machine player, go to work for Privateer Press, and they'll be like, hey, we're gonna run a Pathfinder game, right?
Yeah.
Let's go out and play Pathfinder. Or like, hey, we're gonna play Twilight Imperium or X-Wing. So you have tons of options to kind of like play in other things.
Oh, and as a game designer, same with being a videographer, you need to see play with other people's game systems and work to grow.
Exactly.
See other people's art.
And you still get a lot of opportunity to play your game, and like while I was there, it was great because we would do play test, and so I got to like be in on a lot of like the like, you know, look at the documents and see what the new things are and talk about them. And
well, we got to give you a chance to plug what you're working on right now. We talked about it briefly. Let's talk a bit. We got to give you a little chance to plug.
So
what are you working on? What are you working on?
People about?
I don't know what I can talk about. We actually have a lot of really cool things.
Well, let's talk about the one that's out there that people know about, because it's about to hit the market in the next couple of months.
We do Kickstarter, so which one is that?
The
Could be anything.
All right. Well, whatever you want to talk about.
Okay. Well, we just finished the Kickstarter for Ninja All Stars about 4 months ago. I don't even know. We're just putting on the tail end of the production for that. So a lot of the models are done. They're being cast over in China because all the models are being finished. We're now finishing up all the print work. And so with the print work, like, you know, we have everything in drafts, but then we put it to print. We got to like make alterations. We change the wording. So we kind of take as much time safely as we can to make sure everything's as perfect as it can be. So, and it looks great. Like,
so Ninja All Stars is about to hit, and we'll be playing tons of it.
Ninja All Stars, I believe, is going to be shipping, and do not take this for my word whatsoever, but I believe it's going to be around Christmas time, maybe a little bit after Christmas time.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Play it at Christmas. All right, awesome. Then we're going to move away from that, because we have 2 questions left for you. It's our standard questions for everybody who comes on the show.
Right.
What is your pre-game ritual?
Pre-game ritual.
Just about to hit War Machine. What is your ritual? Is there something you have to do?
If I'm at an event where we've been playing games all day, the first thing you should always do is go pee.
Yeah.
Always go pee.
Go shit and go pee.
Yeah. Right.
So pretty much cover the bowel movements.
Always. Yeah. Pre-game ritual, clean all the damage off my cards, because I've looked at my card half game and been like, did you hurt that guy? I don't even know. Make sure you have the right tokens out. I always, you know, if I'm going to like an event, I always have a stick of deodorant and some mints with me.
Nice.
And a bottle of water. Because
appreciate
yeah, because it always is useful.
Final question, semi-auto magic.
Okay, what item is always, you kind of answered this, but
okay.
what item is always in your bag or on your tray that might be a little bit different than what everybody else always has?
Your super secret cool thing.
Well, I do have, in my bag, I have a custom-built tray that my good friend Noel White, he's an old gaming buddy of mine, he lives in the area. Noel White built me a custom model tray with like all the little slots for your models, but it fits into my Battle Foam TM bag, and so I can just pull it right out and I can fit all my models on it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're actually going to have to cut the roundtable short, which is too bad, because we're going to pick your brain very quickly. We'll turn it into a question instead of turning it into a full roundtable discussion. But let's talk a bit about working in the game industry. I think everybody who plays games with passion that would take the time to listen to a podcast like ours would love to work in the game industry. Just give us a few of your top tips of how to get that golden job. How to get a golden job.
Well, in my case, believing that you can get it, right? That's the first step. Like, if you see a job posting and you feel like you fit the credentials, apply. Because the worst thing that's going to happen is you get the job, right? You're going to get, like, if you don't get it, you don't get it, right? You tried. But if you do get it and you have to change your life and, like, move to some other country or move to a new city or you get the job, you know, you got it. Congratulations.
Your life is over.
Your life is over.
But a new one is starting.
Good luck. Good luck keeping that long-distance relationship with your wife.
One other key thing to working in the game industry is to having a very supportive partner, if you have a partner, because they will be putting up with you working in the game industry.
Which long hours?
No.
No, just
giant beards.
Away.
Big beards.
Giant beards.
Tons of toys everywhere.
Yeah.
A grown man talking about toys incessantly.
So what are the so in your opinion right now, because you are sort of your finger on the pulse of this, what are the skills that are most in demand?
In demand, it really depends on each company, and really all miniature game companies or all game companies are mostly very small companies, right? So, like currently Ninja Vision, where I work, is only about 10 people, and so each person fills a very specific need or like a broad like overflows into a few different jobs. So it's kind of hard to say that any specific skill is needed. To make games, though, they need game developers, right? So you need to have someone who is creative enough to come up with games, play test them, make sure they work, make sure they're fresh, and then work with a whole team of people to see how that initial concept can be developed into a final product, right? A product that stands apart, right? Because currently there's so many like Kickstarters out there.
Yeah, you got to stand apart from
right.
everybody.
Because everybody has a dream to make their own game.
All right, everybody, we're gonna have to cut this short. We could probably have a second pod. Well, you know what? In a few months, we'll bring Kris back and we'll talk about it. We'll keep on moving on. But ladies and gentlemen,
oh no,
it's time for
the lightning round.
All right, it's time for the lightning round. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on week 5 of the lightning round. And unfortunately, we're gonna have to reset the score at this point.
Yeah, because Marc-Andre is making us
we
all
were originally
look
gonna
bad.
have a cumulative score that went throughout the year and guest stars that came back a few times. But Marc-Andre, I believe his current score is like 27.
Well, we brought him here twice. That was a huge mistake.
We brought him here twice. We maybe should have just turned his microphone off.
Yeah,
he
should have muted him.
Member.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy ridiculous. The questions this week I've kind of made sure skewed towards all 3 of you. So
lightning round, we just yell at the answer if we know.
It's gonna be at
so
least
if you
one
know
super
it,
easy one.
you have to buzz. So
okay.
Just yell out as loud as you can.
You have to make an annoying noise.
Make an annoying noise, whatever your annoying whatever your annoying noise is, and I will give you. You'll be the first to get to answer because otherwise everybody's shouting over top of each other. So, first question for this evening is: what is Kovnik Joe's full name on his card?
Where's my worm?
Kovnik Joseph Grigorovich?
It is Kovnik Joseph Grigorovich. 1
impressive.
point to Semi-Auto Magic. All right. Who is the current hierarch of Menoth?
Severius?
It is Severius.
Yeah.
What is the defense of a Harrier?
14.
It is 14. That's 2 points for Aubin.
Wow.
I'm sorry, you weren't fast.
shocked.
It was
So
good.
close.
All right. What is Kaya, the Moon Hunter's pet dog's name?
Laris.
It is Laris. Good.
She's
three.
Laris's pet.
That's 3. We may have
She's
had like.
Laris's pet? is this like a
No comment.
All right. What is the animus of a roadhog? Animus of a roadhog.
Wait, this is one of those beast things
Did
that
you
Minion
play it
has?
for a while? Yeah, it's a beast that Minion had. You played it for a while. What was its animus? Giving you 3 more seconds.
It had an animus?
It had an-
Full tilt?
It is Lightning Strike.
Oh.
Lightning Strike. All right. Name
that
the
an animus?
2 living elven gods.
Living.
2 that are still around. They're hanging out on King.
I'll split it with you.
Well,
Nisor?
Nisor and Skria?
It is. Nisor and Sky. I'm going to give each of you
Oh.
0.5 for that one.
I was gonna say Galadriel.
You get -5 points.
Damn it!
Points from last week because of that one.
I was always.
All right, this is a tougher one. We're getting to the tougher part of the lightning round.
These
What
are
is
hard.
P. Lilith's Themes Force's name? That's terrible grammar, but tell me what the name of P. Lilith's Theme Force is.
P. Lilith?
P. Lilith.
Lightning Strike?
You just said that.
Didn't we do lightning strike already?
It was hunter,
roadkill.
Sorry,
Hunting pack?
it's hunter killers.
Hunter killers.
All right, this one's for the Menoth players out there. Name of Krios's weapon.
Oh.
Told you we're getting tougher. What did Krios?
Justicar?
Is Spellbreaker.
Ugh.
Galvanizer's star action. What is the Galvanizer's star action?
What's a galvanizer?
Like, you mean repair?
Galvanize.
Yes, it is repair. There you go. See,
Is that one of those convergence things?
Yeah. Galvanizer is the convergence guy.
All right.
So,
I believe you're at 3.5. George is at 2.5.
Minus
Maelstrom's at minus 0.5. Final question for the evening for 5 points for all the Chivos. Name the human merc journeyman warcaster.
I'm going to call him Phil.
Anybody else? The human mercenary journeyman warcaster. What's his name?
Oh, wait.
Steve.
Gaston Cross?
It is Gaston Cross for 5 points.
Oh, okay.
You did the Gaston dance,
I did the Gaston dance just to help you out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the lightning round. All right, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We're actually just about we're over the death clock.
Yeah,
We started a bit late, but that's okay because we had so many interesting things to talk about. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Kris.
Thanks,
Kris.
guys. It's awesome to be here.
Super
It's
awesome.
great to have you.
We will have Kris back on the show next time he's hanging about Carlton Place and wanting to hang out with the boys when his wife lets him go. George, tell us where what events are coming up.
Coming up pretty soon, we have one more in our tournament series, I believe on the 30th, or it might be the 29th of this month, and then we're quickly going into Blood and Iron at the beginning of September, and then CGX in October.
Lots of stuff coming up. Lots of events. If you're in the Canadian Ottawa area, there is a lot of things for you to do. Get involved. Be a part of your community. Go to the tournaments. It's
Come
not
to
as
Blood and Iron. It's a War Machine Weekend qualifier, and there's only a few sharks in the tank. Most of the rest of us guppies are going to be there too.
I'm not going to be there, so you won't have to see my ass
Guppy
crack,
Fest.
which is good for
Total
all of you.
Guppy Fest.
There'll be it's super fun. And going to tournaments is what grows your meta and lets you meet awesome people. We know everybody because we went to tournaments, not because we stayed home.
And it's
played.
great practice, too.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
And of course, if you're in our area, you can always join us at the Barley Mow Pub in Elmont, where we play every Monday, sober or not. Finally, there are many ways to interact with this. Death Clock has 60 minutes. If you go onto Facebook, we have a Facebook page. We check up on it all the time. It's also where we give you some of the latest news as it comes out. We try to keep our finger on the pulse as much as possible. If you want quick, fast news, we're generally going to give it to you unless I'm on a trip and George is busy at work. There's also our Twitch stream, which we broadcast here every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time right now, but Eastern Standard Time.
Soon enough.
Soon enough.
Stupid
And
farmers.
last but not least, you can check out the shows after the fact on YouTube, or if you just want to listen to us on the car while you go to work, you can check us out on iTunes. I think we've covered it all. Thank you very much for joining us for the show, guys. We'll see you next week.